Hi there, Mr. Bishop here. And if you're watching this, it means that chaos is about to begin. Because for some insane reason, I agreed that when I hit my 100,000 subscriber goal on YouTube, that I would get hit in the face with a pie, mercilessly attacked with water balloons for 1 minute straight, and get duct taped to the wall for an hour. Now, don't think that just because I've hit my goal that now the chaos is going to end. Matter of fact, it's only going to get weirder from here. Lastly, I'd like to say thank you to all 100,000 of you, because honestly, without you, there is no Mr. Bishop. So thank you all for being the best fans in the world. Without further ado, let's go do this. I'm ready for the first act, pie to the face. Let's have a countdown, please.
3, 2, 1.
Wow! You know what I could use now? I could use a minute of water balloons to the face.
3, 2, 1. Actually hit him!
I know that the soakers didn't get to throw water balloons too.
2, 1.
You know what? It's actually kind of warm. It's actually kind of enjoyable, to be honest.
No!
Oh yeah.
It's not freaking unenjoyable!
I don't
Squeeze harder!
Good night. Oh my gosh! It's in 20 seconds. It's going down under my shirt. I now need to get duct taped to a wall for 1 hour. Hello and welcome to the final segment of the 100K subscriber special. As you can see, I am duct taped to the wall against my own will, and I am teaching you a lesson on financial literacy. Now, why am I teaching you financial literacy? Because money is one of the most important topics. It's really important for us to understand money and try to make more of it, and it affects a lot of the different segments and parts of our life. So let's get started. As I said, it's not everything, but it is incredibly important, and just knowing even a few of the things that I teach you can put you in a really good position later on in life. So here we go. First of all, we're going to be talking about wants and needs. So a need is something that you cannot live without. So you're thinking about water, food, shelter, clothes. Those are things that everyone needs, right? You need heat in your house in order to be warm and comfortable. You need duct tape to attach yourself to the wall. No, you don't really need that. A want, though, is something that you would like to have, but you can live without, right? So you're thinking headphones, going to the movies, candy, that kind of thing. So needs and wants, really important for you to understand that when you have money, you want to prioritize your needs over your wants. Initially, once you have your needs covered, then you get over to the wants. So let's say that Maya has 25 bucks saved. She wants to buy 3 things, either a book, a science kit, or a backpack. The latest book by her favorite author, she can't wait to read it. A magnet science kit with over 30 experiments. She loves science. A new backpack. Her old backpack is badly damaged. Now clearly, the backpack is the need because her old one is really badly damaged. Now, it doesn't mean that the science kit and the book aren't cool things to have, but they're wants. Those are things that she can wait on to purchase. So the main message there is when you do get money, make sure that you're prioritizing your needs over your wants first. I just realized that I'm super thirsty. This is going very bad. Okay, so just a question to ask yourself: when you get money, what do you do with it? Do you immediately go spend it? Do you spend some of it and then save it? Do you save all of it? So it's kind of an important thing for you to think about when you do get money, whether it's for allowance or for jobs you do around the house, or maybe it's a holiday that comes up and your grandma or your grandpa or your great Uncle Ralph gives you money. So now let's talk about savings goals, okay? So a savings goal is an amount you plan to save your money toward. Okay, so you have two main types of savings goals. You have a short-term savings goal and you have a long-term savings goal. So short terms is something that you want to, basically you want to save for something that's happening in the near future. Okay, so an example of that might be you really want this, maybe it's a video game that costs $20. And so you want to save up for that. But a long-term savings goal is something that's going to take you a lot longer to save for. Could be months, could even be years. So here are my examples. My short-term savings goal would be YouTube Premium. I really want a subscription to that because I can't stand ads. I love how I can do this and it just doesn't move my body at all. So that's a short-term, but a long-term savings goal is actually last year I saved up for 8 months to buy a new laptop, and then over the summer I saved up for a few months to buy myself an e-bike. So those are long-term savings goals. So when you have a savings goal, it's really important that you come up with a plan in order to actually save for that. So here's some tips on that. So the first thing is, write down what your goal is. What's the thing that you're wanting to get? The second is to figure out the cost and to write it down. You need to know how much it's actually going to cost. Sometimes you might need to look online for that. Finally, you want to, we're on the third step. What am I talking about? I'm already losing my mind, people. Third, you want to set dates for when you would like to reach your goal, okay? So it could be in a month, it could be in a couple weeks, it could be in a year. It kind of depends on how much money you're bringing in. And that's another point too. If you are not getting any money, get creative. Maybe you start a little business where you're selling something, selling stickers that you make, or maybe you are doing tours for people in your neighborhood with parent permission, of course. Or, there's a bunch of different ways that you can get money even as a kid. And so just a side note for that. So set dates. 4, write a plan. So you got to figure out how you're going to make money to achieve that goal. 5th, keep track and progress of what it is that you're doing. Make sure that you're working towards those goals. So for example, the e-bike that I got was $800. I gave myself 4 months to save for it. So that meant I needed to save $200 a month. And so every single month I checked to see where I was at with that until came November, and then I had $800 saved up and I bought myself an e-bike. Now, if you need more time, you can set new dates. That's always fine. You're not always going to achieve your goal right when you're wanting to achieve your goal. So main message here, setting savings and goals and making a plan for how to save can really help achieving that goal more realistic. If you just say, oh, I really, really want that Fortnite Battle Pass or whatever kids are into these days, big stuffy, whatever, you have to have an actual plan for that because that's going to make it more realistic. Okay, savings calculator. So now I'm going to talk to you about savings, okay? Oh my gosh, I can barely breathe. Okay, so basically, when you get money, you have a few different options. Actually, you have a lot of options, but the main ones for you is you just hold on to it, you put it into a checking account in a bank, or you put it into a savings account. So my recommendation is you all talk to your parents and see if you have a savings account, and if you don't have one, then talk to them about getting one, and if you do go to the bank, ask them about a high yield savings account. Basically what that means is that when you put your money into there, you're going to earn more money over time by putting it into that account than if you just put it into a regular savings account. So again, that's high yield savings account, okay? So let's take a look at the savings calculator. I want to show you just how much you could have by age 18 if you started investing when you were 10. Okay, I can barely see that from here. So basically if you're age 10 and you put money into a savings account, by the time you hit 18, you would have $15,000. That's in a lot of cases enough to buy your own car. Right now, I know that, I didn't even talk about that. It might seem like a lot to save $5 a day, because that's what that's showing, $5 a day. But if you're really crafty, you can make it happen, especially when you get to be 15, 16, you can get a job and you can be saving even more. Now, if you invest that, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, that number grows to almost $20,000, right? Because when you invest your money, you're giving your money a better chance to grow and grow faster. There is some risk associated with that, and you would obviously have to work with your parents on this. But when you invest your money and do it in a safe way, you can make a lot of money, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. So the main message there is you can literally earn money just by having it in a savings account. I put quite a bit of money into a high yield savings account, and it's just sat there for the last few months, and I've made about $400 just by it sitting in that account. So that's why knowing these things is really, really cool. Even if you're learning it from a guy like me who's duct taped to a wall. Okay, now we're gonna talk about budgeting really quick. We'll get to investing, I think, soon after this. So a budget is really important. A budget is a spending plan to help you manage your money. So I use a budget every single week, and a budget is basically where you're trying to figure out where you're spending your money and how much money you have to spend. So again, talking about kind of wants and needs there. So in your budget, you might have expenses like the heating bill or a water bill or your mortgage or your rent or groceries, right? Or you might even have it for fun things like wants, right? Like video games. So it's really important to use a budget, and I'm not going to teach you how to do a budget right now, just planting that seed later on in life to try to use a budget if you can. Oh my gosh, to help manage your money. A lot of people avoid looking at their checkings accounts and their savings accounts and looking at how much they're spending because it just scares them. But honestly, the more confident you are by using a budget and the more familiar you are with your money, the better it's going to be for you in the long run. Okay, so now let's talk about investing. Oh my gosh, can I just have a breath? Can I just breathe? I need to breathe. Oh, the duct tape is restricting my lungs. This is truly horrendous, guys. What are we, like 10 minutes in? I should have looked at the clock. Okay, investing. All right, so there are a few different ways of investing your money. Oh, I got an itch on my nose. So one way to invest your money is through, I really have to itch it. Oh, this is terrible. Is a CD. That's a certificate of deposit. And basically what that means is that you're lending money to the bank for a certain amount of time. It could be several months or years, and then the bank pays you back the money with interest. You don't get a ton of money back over time, but it's totally safe. You won't lose a dime doing it through a CD. By the way, it's not like a compact disc that has music on it. It's a certificate of deposit. A bond is a certificate sold by a company or government, and when you buy a bond, you're basically lending money to that company or government, and then they're essentially using that money for different things, and then they pay it back to you over time with interest. Bonds are pretty safe as well, but you can lose your money. They're a little riskier. And then finally, and by the way, bonds typically are for a longer period of time. Stocks, that's where you basically own a share of the company, right? So you could own a share of Apple or Microsoft or Netflix or Costco, Kroger, whatever. Really any public company. And then essentially you get money back if they make money, and if they lose money, then you lose money, right? You don't lose your shares, but you're losing money. It can be a little bit complicated. We'll talk about the way that I invest money later on. I don't actually invest in individual stocks. I personally invest in index funds, which we will talk about super soon. So stocks can be a lot riskier, especially if you're putting most of your money into one or two main companies. Because like, for example, if you put a bunch of money, all of your money into Netflix, and then there's a huge drop in the stock market, then you can see your money plunge really quickly that way. So risk and return is basically, it's the concept of, with each of these investment styles, you have the potential of making a lot of money, but you also have some risk associated with it, so potentially losing money. So CDs are essentially low risk and low return. You're not going to get a ton of money back, but you're not going to lose any money, pretty much guaranteed. Now a bond, that is also generally low risk and low return, especially for US government bonds. Company bonds, though, are higher risk and higher return. So you can make more money, but you can lose money as well, so it's a little riskier. Stocks, high risk, high return. So, like I said, you could put all of your money into Netflix, and if they have a huge week, and you can, make a ton of money that week, well, the very next week, they could lose all of that money, and then some, right? You could, it could really downfall. What a lot of people do in that situation is when the numbers are going down and they're tanking, they do this thing where they sell because they get nervous. That's not a good idea to do that though, because in that case, you're basically selling all your shares, and then you're losing a ton of money in the process. Which is why at the very beginning it said time is on your side. Time is the biggest theme of all this, is that the longer you can invest, the longer you can wait with an investment and be patient, the more money you can make. And then in that kind of situation where if you lose a ton of money, hold on to your shares and you wait a while, it'll eventually climb back up in most cases, especially companies like Netflix and Amazon, stuff like that. Okay, so this is just basically showing the risk and return graph, right? So at the bottom you have low risk and low return. At the top you have higher risk, possibility of high return. So it goes all the way from CDs towards the bottom, all the way up to stocks towards the end. So let's take a look at some scenarios, okay? Jay does not like to take risks. He just bought a 1-year CD from the bank. He knows it is low risk. How much money will he probably make next year from the CD? And the answer to that would be B. A little money. He might make a little bit of money. Maya has a lot of money in saved. She wants to invest some of it. She wants to take a risk with her money so she has a chance of making a lot of money back. She wants to use the money to start her own restaurant one day. What kind of investment should she make? Honestly, in that case, probably stocks. Probably stocks. A U.S. bond would maybe be okay too, but stocks, she's going to have a higher chance of getting more money back for her restaurant. Your friend Kelvin asks you what you know about company bonds. He's thinking about buying one. He's sure he will make a lot of money. If he does, what would you tell him about company bonds? And basically, you would say about company bonds, they're not as safe as U.S. government bonds. The answer is B, they can be risky, but you can make a lot of money too. I'm truly questioning my life's decisions in this very moment. You have no idea how difficult it is for me to breathe right now. I hope you're enjoying this. Okay, this is really cool. So now I'm going to talk to you about how every single one of you watching can become a millionaire at some point. And I know that sounds really fake and cheesy, like, okay, yeah, I can become a millionaire. No, like you actually can, but you just have to understand how. You have to know the education behind it. So what this question is asking is how much you need to invest per month to hit $1 million by the age of 65 based on when you start. Now the age of 65 is really important because that's the average retirement age, at least in the United States. So you're retiring around 65 and you want to have enough saved so that by the time you retire, you can live off those savings. So if you are 20 years old and you save $269 a month for what, 45 years, then you will be a millionaire by the time you're 65. But take a look at this. Now we move up 5 years. Well, if you wait until you're 25, now that number goes from $269 to $385. Let's bump that up to 40. Now it's $1,213. 50, $3,052. So you're kind of starting to get the idea, right? That the later that you start investing and thinking about your future, the harder it's going to be for you to get where you want to be. And there are actually quite a lot of people that I know where they really didn't start investing until much later on or haven't at all, and they're in their 50s, sometimes even 60s. And so they're kind of in a really difficult position because now they're going to have to keep working for a lot longer past 65. Okay, also at the bottom of that, you'll see assumes a 7% rate of return. So what that means is basically when you invest in the stock market, or specifically in this case, index funds, you can assume that you'll get about 7% money back on what you put in, right? So you're gonna get a little bit of money back depending on how much money you put in. But on average, it's actually anywhere from 7 to 10%. Historically. So let's take a look at some different examples of this. Oh, actually, hold on. Let's talk index funds first. I forgot about this. Okay, so you know an index in the back of a book is basically where you have an A to Z sort of alphabetized, really glossary of all the different words that are in that book from A to Z. So index funds are basically like an A to Z glossary, or bowl, if you will, or pie, if you will, of all of the different major public companies that are on the stock market. So when you invest in index funds, which is what I do, you're investing in basically the whole stock market, and you're investing in little small pieces of the pie all the way through the stock market. So a little bit of Microsoft, Amazon, Walmart, Costco, you name it, Nintendo. You own a little piece of all those things, a tiny little shred. So essentially what that means is when the stock market goes up, your money goes up. When the stock market goes down, your money goes down. But historically speaking, over time, the stock market will have drops and dips, but overall, it rises, it goes up. Even back in 2008, there was a big stock market crash. It was low for quite a while until it slowly started rising up again, and then slowly going up and up and up, and now we're higher than we've been before, right? So that's how the stock market works. So when I invest in anything, I invest in index funds because I don't want to pick specific stocks. I want to choose everything so that when the stock market's going up, my money's going up, and I can just root for everything to be going well. Okay, so there is a link here, and there was for the savings calculator before too. I'll put those in the video description, where basically you can put in your own information here. So you can put in what age you start investing, how much you're investing, the rate of return when you want to retire, and it'll show you how much money you have when you get to that retirement age. So in this case, if you start investing at age 22, you have $0 starting investment, because let's be honest, let's say you go to college, you're coming out of college, you probably don't have money saved up. You actually probably have student loans to pay for. And then you're putting in $250 a month until you're 65. The rate of return, let's assume 7%, and you're retiring at 65. The annual cost of living just means that by the time that you're retiring, it's going to cost you around $48,000 to live every year. You would have about $795,000 by the time you retire, which isn't bad, but honestly probably not enough. You can see that at age 80, if you didn't touch any of your investments, then you would have $1 million. So not bad, but honestly, you could do better. So let's take a look at another example. Now you're 25, okay? And now you've got a career and you're able to start spending or saving a little bit more money. So you put in $500 a month and you have a 7% rate of return, you would end up having $1.2 million. That's not bad, that's pretty good. If you didn't touch it by the time you're 80, you'd have $2.5 million. So you can see how the more aggressive you are in your saving, the more money you're gonna have later on in life. And I know sometimes it's hard to think about your future, it's hard to care, it's hard to be like, well, why not just focus on the now? Well, because you don't wanna work forever. So you wanna be kind to the future you and have a plan for yourself. Now, so what I did here for this one, this is more of a realistic savings example. I changed the rate of return to 10%. So that's a really kind of important thing to focus on because you're gonna see how much the money shifts just by going up a little bit in the rate of return. So instead of 1.2 million at retirement, 2.9 million. Now take a look at that. If you don't touch that retirement, maybe you have a pension or a retirement plan through your job, by the time you're 80, that could be $11.7 million. Just by you saving $500 a month for about 40 years. And I know $500 sounds like so much money. And it is, but it's also doable. I know it's doable because I've been doing it now for about the last 5 years. And we will talk about careers in a little bit, and certain careers will pay more. And so sometimes some people like to choose careers where they're making more money. I always encourage you to go into a career that you love, that you're really excited about. Like me as a teacher, this is everything exactly as I want it to be. I love what I get to do. I mean, look at me, what is this? I'm duct taped to a wall, but I'm loving it. It's great. I'm teaching you stuff. Hopefully, you're learning. And so I encourage you to do what you love, and also, if you can, think about the money aspect of it too, a little bit, right? A little bit, and especially when it comes to college, sometimes going to a college can really help out as well with that. So that's investing, okay? So that's kind of, can I do it? Yes, I inched my leg. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, time is one of the biggest factors of all of this. So the sooner that you can start saving, the better it's going to be for yourself later on. Now, earlier today, or earlier in this segment, I talked to you about savings and savings accounts, high yield savings accounts. We just talked about investing. Another really cool thing that you can do, you would need to explore this option with your parents, but a really cool option is something called a custodial Roth IRA. So a Roth IRA is something essentially where you can invest in whatever you want to. Again, like I said before, I invest in index funds. And you earn a certain amount of money back over time. So I probably won't touch my Roth IRA until I'm 65, maybe even 70. A custodial Roth IRA is basically an account set up by your parents where they and you can be putting money into those investment accounts whenever. You could be 5, you could be 10, you could be 18. Actually, you would be earlier than 18. And by the time that you hit 18, that custodial Roth transfers over to you, and then you are the owner of that Roth IRA. And so then at that point, you already have an established Roth IRA, which is really, really great. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between just investing in index funds and investing in a Roth IRA, for example? Well, with index funds on their own, basically, whenever you end up taking the money out of your account later on in life, you have to pay a huge amount of tax on that, which, if you don't know about tax, tax is just basically money that comes out of your paycheck or out of your investment accounts or whatever to go back towards the government to pay for things like, cities, teachers, certain careers, positions, if there are roads that need working on, things like that. Okay. So, but with a Roth IRA, what happens is when you invest the certain amount of money that you want to put in there, and you can't put in more than $7,000 a year into a Roth IRA, you basically pay tax on it then. So you pay a little bit of tax on it before you put it in, and then by the time later on that you retire and you start taking money out, it is tax-free. So let's say that you retire and you want to take $200,000 out of your Roth IRA account. You're not going to pay any taxes on that because you've paid in pre-tax revenue, it's called. So a custodial Roth is a really cool way to go, but if you're not wanting to go that into it yet, I just recommend at least a savings account, and like I said before, a high yield savings account. In terms of rate of return with Roth IRAs, like I said, those go anywhere from 7 to 10%, but traditionally right around this time, a high yield savings account is going to be probably around 3.5%. So that's a pretty good amount still. If you do a regular savings account, that's more around like 1 to 1.5%. In case you're curious about that, basically the way that you make money by putting your money into a savings account is what the banks do is they take your money and they use it for other things. They make money themselves for all the various ways that they make money, and then they give you a small piece of that back. So funny enough, you're actually lending money to the bank when you are putting your money into the savings account, which is kind of fun to think about. Okay, so now I want to talk to you a little bit about college. Okay, because with certain careers, such as my career that I'm in right now, you actually have to go to college in order to do those things. You don't have to go to college for everything, and I'm not saying all of this just to encourage you to go to college like you have to. I think everyone has their own path, and you should feel free to do what you want to do. Like maybe you want to start a bakery. You don't actually have to go to college to start a bakery, right? But I do want to show you, on average, in our country, the sort of discrepancy or the difference between average incomes or how much money you make based on educational attainment or going to college. So if you're looking at starting with a non-degree award, that takes you anywhere from a few weeks to 2 years. An associate's degree, which is something that you can get at any sort of regular community college in your town, that usually takes about 2 years. And that can be a really good option to start at a community college and then transfer to a bigger university, because community colleges are typically a lot cheaper. So remember before I was mentioning about student loans, you're going to probably have a lot less student loans if you go to a community college first before a major university. To get a bachelor's degree takes about 4 years. So that's about how long it took me to get my bachelor's degree in education. Master's degree takes about 1 to 2 years, and a doctoral degree takes about 5 to 6 years. Now, in a lot of different career fields, you actually have to have a master's to start there, but not in every single one. So as a teacher, I actually have 2 master's degrees. I didn't need to get either one of those, but I knew that if I got a master's degree and even 2 master's degrees, I would make more money. So I got those as soon as I could and that has really helped me in terms of investing in the long run. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about the income thing, okay? And again, not trying to encourage you like you have to go to college, but I just want to show you on average some of the differences between earnings. Now, I will say this is back from 2017, so a few years back, so it's probably changed a little bit since then. All right, so if you are someone who just graduates high school, on average, you're going to earn about $33,000 per year, okay? If you get an associate's degree, that bumps up to $37,000. So already you're making a little bit more. Now, if you go to a bachelor's degree, that goes from $33,000 all the way up to $56,000 on average. Again, not meaning that that's going to be the guaranteed amount of money that you're going to make, but you can see what a difference that makes. Now, bump that up to a master's degree, $70,000. Go all the way up to a professional degree, such as a law degree, $91,000, and doctorate degree, $79,000. Now, I will say these numbers are definitely higher now, because I believe that on average, if you're a doctor, for example, you're making at least six figures. Six figures meaning six numbers, basically meaning $100,000 or more, and in most cases, a lot more than $100,000. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about investing, the more money that you make in your career, the more opportunity you have to invest. So, I don't think that you have to go into a job where you make a ton of money. I think the main thing that you should do when you're trying to choose a job is to go into a career field that you really love and you're excited about. And if you're going into a career where you make more money, the reality is it's going to be easier to save it. Because kind of going back to what we were talking about before with wants and needs, you're going to have a lot of needs in your life when you become an adult, and you're going to have a lot of wants too. So it's nice to be able to cover your needs, your wants, and investing for yourself in the future too. Okay, income tax. I'm going to talk to you about that really quick. It's really important that you understand that when you earn any income in the United States, or in most places, you are going to have a little bit, like a percentage of that money that's going to go to income tax. That's going to go to other things. So public education, for example, as a teacher, most of my salary comes from tax in the city and the state that I live in. It also funds libraries, right? That's why you're able to go check out books. Science and medical research, transportation, road and bridge repairs, national security, benefits for U.S. veterans. There are tons of different things that taxes go towards. And generally speaking, if I ever have the opportunity to vote on taxes, I usually vote to approve higher taxes because I like seeing that my community is doing better as a result of that money, even if it means I make a little bit less. But as long as I'm smart with my own money and I'm investing and I'm being thoughtful about, spending money on my needs first and then my wants, then it's all good. I don't need to worry about a couple bucks here and there. Okay, so now kind of continuing to talk about careers. So, and the reason I'm talking about this is because, again, whatever career you end up going into will earn you a certain amount of money on average, right? So it's just important that you understand that. So when you're thinking about what kind of career you want to go into, you really want to think about your own personal interests. So if you take a look at all this stuff up here, you have, I care about people and their problems. If you're someone that cares about that kind of thing, maybe you want to be a social worker. Maybe you want to be a psychologist. Maybe you want to be a teacher. If you enjoy taking care of animals, maybe you want to be a vet or a wildlife rehabilitator. Right, so you can take a look at all these different things and see, hey, I really relate to that one. That's a really good one. I would love to do that. And there are actually websites online, maybe I can post a link in the video description, where you can actually type in things about yourself or click in certain scales for what your interests are, and then it will generate some job options for you. And this might be more beneficial for those of you who might be, 15, 16, 17, maybe thinking about college, where you want to go, what you want to study, or maybe some of you who are even a little bit older. I know of some people that are even past college at this point. So that could be a really cool thing too, in case you're trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do with my life? Because that can be kind of overwhelming at first when you're trying to figure that all out. Okay, now I can't click on these links. Again, I'll put these in the description. But these are really, really great websites for you to go and explore. And the reason for that is these websites will show you all of the different jobs that there are, literally all of them, especially in the occupational handbook, from A to Z, all the different careers there are, and then on average, how long it will take you to become that thing in terms of schooling, and then also on average, how much money you will make. Because as I was talking to you about before with the retirement calculator, how much money you're able to invest really depends on how much money you make. So for example, if I am a teacher and I'm making, let's say, $80,000 a year, I can invest a pretty good amount, right? Depends on my life circumstances, but I can invest a pretty good amount. If I'm a surgeon, I can invest way more money, right? There's a really big range there, but again, it comes back to time. The sooner you start investing, the better of a position you will be later on in life. You don't want to be working until you're 70, 75, 80. You're going to be tired then. You're going to want to live it up and relax. So take a look at all those careers and kind of think to yourself, what is it that I want to do? And just kind of educate yourself on how much money you can actually make doing that thing. I need to breathe for a second. I probably want to dead now. Okay, let's talk about credit. Credit is a loan, okay? So if you've ever wondered, what's a credit card? Well, basically a credit card is, it's a card that allows you to borrow money. That's really what you're doing. You're borrowing money from whatever credit card company you're borrowing from, right? So Fidelity. Fidelity is the credit card that I use. And I'm actually what's called a deadbeat. So a deadbeat is someone who will put money on their credit card, but they pay it off every single month and they're never ever late. Credit card companies don't really like deadbeats because it's hard to make money off deadbeats. The way that credit cards work is that you put money on the card, and in a lot of cases people put money on credit cards when they don't have the money for something, which happens sometimes. But then over time they get charged interest, which means that they have to pay the credit card company back more money than what they borrow. So let's say they borrowed $100 and then they pay it back over the course of 3 months. Well, they might have ended up owing the credit card company like $120, right? That's one way that the credit card companies make their money. Another way they make their money is by when you don't pay your credit card off in time. If you don't make a single payment, then they can ding you. They can charge you like $20, $30 every time that happens. So what you have to be careful about with a credit card is trying not to overspend with them. It's very easy to overspend with credit cards because let's say you really want this brand new TV, right? But you just don't have enough money for it at that time. You'll have enough money for it in a couple weeks, but you really want it now. Well, you put money on your credit card, and then maybe you buy something else, and now all of a sudden you have this really big credit card bill, and sometimes that becomes really overwhelming. And then what happens is people get scared about that, and instead of dealing with it, they just kind of ignore it and they keep piling on and on and on, and now you're in a snowball effect situation where you are owing way, way more money to the credit card company than you would have ever liked. So I really enjoy being a deadbeat because I never owe them a single penny. And matter of fact, the credit card that I have gives me 3% cash back every single time I make a purchase, but it's not actually cash back. So what I do, just in case anyone's interested, is I have 529s, they're called 529s for each of my kids. And those are basically college investment accounts. So what happens is every single time that I spend any money using my credit card, 1.5% cash of that goes into my son's account, and then the other 1.5% goes into my daughter's account. So by the time that they go to college, they're gonna have a pretty good little amount of money there. And guess what? I haven't spent a single cent to get there. I mean, yes, I've spent money on my credit card, but I haven't paid a penny to the credit card companies. So that's a really cool thing to do, but I don't recommend getting a credit card and doing that kind of thing unless you're really disciplined and making sure that you're paying it off every single month. Also, another thing that happens with credit cards and people sometimes is what you can do is you can, and I'll just move to this in a second, you can max out your card. So a spending limit is the amount, a limit to the amount of money a person can spend, okay? So your credit card company might give you a $10,000 spending limit, okay? If you max out that credit card, you can't spend any more money on that card, and you put yourself in kind of a scary situation, right? But what you can also do, which is even scarier, is you can then go out to a different credit card company and you can get another credit card and another credit card and another credit card, and now you're in a really, really dangerous situation because now you owe money to a ton of different people. The other negative effect of that is there's something called a credit score, and the better your credit score is, the more options you have for certain things. The worse your credit card score is, or credit score is, the harder it is to get certain things. So for example, if you ever want to go to buy a house, that is one of the things that they will check. They will check your credit score, and if you have a really low credit score because you've opened up all these credit cards, then it's likely that you won't be able to get a loan for that house. Same thing with a car payment, for example, right? So you have to be really, really careful with credit cards, and just try to only use them when you know that you have the money to pay them back. You're not always going to be able to do that though. Sometimes you might have emergency situations that come up that can make it really difficult for you. So that's a credit card. So just know there can be interest associated with that as long as you're not paying it off on time. So now a debit is money removed from an account, and that's typically just coming out of your checking account, okay? So a debit card is a plastic card that when it's used, money is taken out of your checking account right away. Okay, so if you go to Fred Meyer and you get a bunch of groceries, you use your debit card, it comes right out of your checking account, not out of your savings account or retirement accounts or credit card accounts or anything like that. It's just right out of your checking account. If you're ever in a situation where they say, oh, I'm sorry, like it denied your card, that might mean that you've run out of money in your checking account. So it's good to make sure that you'll always have enough money in there. Oh, okay. Another form of debit is checks. So this is more of an old-fashioned way of paying for things. People don't really use checks anymore. When I was a cashier at Hagen, senior citizens loved using checks, and you always knew it was going to be about a 5-minute wait every time they pulled one of those suckers out. So basically, this is the original, this is why they're called checking accounts, because it originated with the check, where you are writing out who you're paying, how much it's for, the date, all that kind of stuff, and then it's processed through your checking account. The difference between a debit card and a check is that checks typically, like if I send someone a check, maybe I borrowed some money from them, so I send them a check. It might take them a week to process that check and put it through the bank, whereas with a debit card, it immediately comes out of my checking account. Okay, pay yourself first. So this goes along with our savings discussions, okay? So pay yourself first is exactly kind of what it sounds like. Basically, when you receive money, make sure to save some of it before you spend it. So this goes back to our wants and needs conversation, right? You're always gonna have wants. You're always gonna have that cool thing that you wanna get, that new video game, or that new stuffy, or that new, I don't know, video, did I just say video game? I don't know, shower cap, I don't care. I don't know what you do in your spare time. But whatever it is, you're gonna want that thing. But you need to make sure that before you go buy that thing, you're taking care of your savings first and you're taking care of your needs first, right? So again, needs being your mortgage or groceries or water bill or, basic necessities like that. And so typically speaking, you wanna save, anywhere from, it kind of depends on how much money you make, right? But you want to save anywhere from like 8 to 15% of your money anytime you're getting money, especially through your job. Especially if you're investing that so that you can help that grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, if you're a 10-year-old watching this right now, you are probably having a smaller amount of money coming in, right? Maybe holidays, birthdays, maybe you're doing some chores around the house and you're getting some money that way, or maybe with parents' permission, you're doing some jobs in the neighborhood. Right? And so the amount of money that you make doesn't really matter as much as you understanding the rule that you're setting for yourself. So if you're saying, I want to save 10% of whatever I make, okay, well, for every $10, that would be $1 that you save, right? So you're just kind of starting to think that way, that when I get $50 for my birthday, I don't just go immediately spend all of that without thinking about future me, right? Because the thing is, that's why I invest. If I didn't invest, every single month from here on out until I retire, then when I got to retirement age, I would be in a much different situation. I'd be a lot more nervous because I wouldn't have as much money ready for me, okay? How do banks work? Did you set a timer? You didn't, okay. Will you just check to see the camera and how much time is on there? I don't know how many more slides I have. Oh, okay. I might need to slow it down a little bit.
It's at 21 minutes.
21 minutes. So 21 plus 25, we're like 46. Okay, I'm probably okay. Okay. All right, so how do banks work? I'm gonna give you the real basics here. So after you open a checking or savings account, you can put money in, that's called making a deposit, or you can take money out, that's called making a withdrawal, okay? The bank keeps your money safe and pays you interest if you have a savings account. Really important for you to keep in mind with a checking account, you don't make any money by having it in a checking account, okay? And it's totally fine, you don't always have to be making money. Matter of fact, you really want to make sure that you have a checking account so you always have money that's readily available in case you need it, but you won't make any money on that. So, why does the bank pay you? When you have a savings account, you are lending money to the bank, as I told you before. So typically speaking, when you get money, you're going to go to the bank, walk up to one of the tellers, you give them the money, you will typically sign like a deposit form or withdrawal form, and you'll either put money in or take money out, and that will be that. I know that when I taught all this to my students about a month ago, I had about 6 or 7 kids tell me that they went and talked to their parents about this, and their parents ended up going to the bank with them and opening them up savings accounts, specifically the high yield savings accounts. So you might want to talk to your parents about that. They might not be open to it, and you have to respect that, but at least bring up that as a topic of conversation to see what they say. Okay. I'm gonna go past that. Okay, let's talk about saving for emergencies. In about one second. So hot. Oh. Okay. Okay, so in your life, you will at some point likely encounter some sort of emergency. I hope you don't, but at some point you might. Okay, so it's really, really important that you have a separate account saved up for emergencies specifically. I call mine an emergency savings account. Some people call it a rainy day fund. So basically, an emergency is some sort of a risk. There's a risk that essentially there's a risk of anything bad happening at any time is what I'm trying to say, right? So you might be in a situation where all of a sudden you get rear-ended by someone, right? And so you need to go to the doctor and there's a big medical bill or something like that. Or another example might be that, let's see, maybe you are playing baseball with a friend and someone throws you the baseball, you miss it, and it shatters through this really, expensive window, and so you need to help cover the cost of that, and like immediately, right? Because that's an emergency because now cold air is coming through your house. So it's really important that you're set up for emergencies, not necessarily right now, especially if you're a kid, if you're 10, 11, 12 or whatever, but later on in life, you want to make sure that you have money set to the side in case something really big does happen, okay? So these are some real life emergencies that could happen. An unplanned hospital stay, right? Like, so my son, for example, he got stitches in his chin once because he fell over, and then we drove to the ER, and then a week later, he fell over again, and he hit his chin in the same exact spot, and he had to get stitches again. That was a very expensive week, okay? So that's a big one. A sick or injured pet. You know how expensive it is when you go to the vet? Especially if there's something wrong with your pet? That can get really expensive, up to the thousands of dollars, right? The washing machine breaks and needs repairs. You know what happened to me last year? I had my washer break down and my dryer break down at the same time, and then the very next day, my dishwasher broke down, and all of those things needed to be replaced. That cost me about $3,000 to get all of those things repaired and replaced, right? So all of a sudden, I needed to have that money, and so fortunately I had that saved. tires wear out, need to be replaced, working fewer hours but still need to pay the bills. So there are lots of different emergency situations that can come up, which is why it's important that you do that pay yourself first thing, or maybe you're saving some of it or investing it and then you're putting some to the side for that emergency saving situation too. Just so you know, you probably don't need to know this now, you'll probably forget, but what experts say is that it's best to have about 6 months worth of living expenses saved up for an emergency account, right? So if each month it costs you about, I don't know, $4,000 to live, then you would want to have about $24,000 saved up in your emergency savings fund, which is a lot, which is why a lot of people don't do it, because it's kind of overwhelming, it's a little bit intimidating, but it's still really important that you're at least putting something in there in the case that something happens. I need a break. It's just so painful. My life is over. Everything is bad. Okay, let's talk about private information. This might not seem like it has much to do with money, and it kind of does, it kind of doesn't, but it's really important either way. So some information should be kept personal. It should not be shared with anyone without a parent's permission, especially when you are online. So these are some things that you should always keep personal, whether it's on, YouTube comments or TikTok or Instagram or on some random website. You never want to share this stuff. You don't want to share your birth date, your phone number, your home address, your bank account number, obviously never, a parent's credit card number, password, school name, and address. There's a couple different reasons for that. You don't want to have people kind of doing weird stuff, but there's also something called identity theft, which can happen. So identity theft is essentially where someone is assuming your identity. It's not like they, get a picture of you and then they start dressing like you and act like they're you. Typically, in most cases, that's not what's happening, right? What it means is that they're using your personal information for their own gain. So in a lot of cases, they're trying to use your bank account information so that they can pay for things using your money and not their money. It's a really kind of scary thing that can happen. It actually happened to me about 1 month into the big COVID era when everything shut down and everyone was home. Some of you might not remember that. But about 1 month in, I had gotten an alert that my identity had been stolen. And so I had to set up all these accounts so that I would be protected from there on out. And it wasn't because I gave out any personal information. There was a breach of data that went out, so that was kind of a separate thing. But the thing that you can do is make sure that you're never sharing any of this kind of information online with anyone. That's really, really critical. And honestly, out of everything that I've talked to you about, I hope that you remember that the most, in addition to just investing in how important time is. So, identity theft is a crime. It's when someone pretends to be another person by taking that person's personal information to steal his or her money. So here are some examples, okay? A thief might steal someone else's credit card number to buy things online. Then the bill is sent to the owner of the credit card, not the thief. Let's say your parent credit card number was stolen. On the next statement, your parent notices a charge for 50 pounds of lizard food. That's a very weird thing to buy. Wait a minute, you don't have a pet lizard. Now your parent has to call the credit card company and report a theft. Credit card companies deal with this a lot of the time, so it's not like they don't know what to do, but it's still not a situation you want to be in. Okay, let's say you're using the computer and you get to a pop-up ad. It says you can win a prize if you click on the ad. Don't click on the ad. Please don't ever fall for ads. Most of the time they're gimmicky and they're just places where you go and then they try to take your information. If you did click on the ad, it might ask you to enter personal information so you can collect your prize. Never do that without a parent's permission. If you do, someone may use the information you entered to steal your identity. And matter of fact, this happens a lot of time in emails. This is why the spam folder is so important in Hotmail, Gmail, all those different places. What people will do is they will send emails to folks that are pretty gullible or people that kind of will believe anything. And they will act like they're a certain person, or they'll act like they're a big company that's giving away a bunch of money. It actually happens a lot more than you'd think. Happens a lot with senior citizens. And so then what people will do is they'll click on the link, they'll put in their information, their bank account information, and then instead of getting that big prize or all that money, they see that a bunch of money has been taken out of their accounts. So really, really critical that you make sure that on email too, you're being really vigilant, which means that you're looking out for yourself and you're being really, really careful. Okay, let's see how much more we have here. Oh, just a couple more. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. My back is in a world of hurt. Ugh. Let's see what this is. I don't even know what this is. No, we're not going to do that one. Let's talk about inflation. Okay, this is one of the last things I'm going to talk to you guys about. So, inflation is the overall rise in prices, just something that's important for you to know. Because a lot of the numbers and data that I've shown you here will change over time because of inflation. So, for example, a pound of oranges today costs more money than it did 10 years ago, right? So, in 2008, the average price of a pound of oranges was 91 cents. Now it's about $1.33. That might not seem like a lot. You might be going, well, it's just 40 cents. Okay, but if inflation is something that's affecting most products, most food products, and most other products that you're buying, well, it's not just oranges. It's bread, it's eggs, it's meat, it's all sorts of produce, it's all sorts of things. And so your bill is going to go up over time. Fortunately, with a lot of jobs, they have something called cost of living increases, where they naturally will give everyone a little bit more money to adjust. It's called adjusting for inflation, but oftentimes it's not enough to match inflation, so you're still frustrated with the inflation because it keeps going up and up and up. So a really good example of this, actually I mentioned it before, is eggs. So, even just a few years ago, eggs were a lot cheaper than they are today. They could have been like $2.50 for a dozen. And now, most recently I went to get some eggs and they were $6. A few weeks ago during Thanksgiving, they were about $10. So inflation is a real thing. It can happen. It will continue to happen. And it's just something that's kind of important for you to be aware of. Now, it's not just with food products either. It's with all sorts of different goods. As a matter of fact, one of the most interesting examples of this that I like to talk to students about is with homes. So there's inflation with homes. And that's why I say at the bottom to look at Zillow. Zillow is a website where you can look at homes. Something I would encourage you to do is go to Zillow, type in a random city, maybe it's your own city, and just click on any house that's there and scroll down. Scroll down to where it says price and tax history. And what that's going to show you is it's going to show you in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, it's going to show you when that house was built and how much it was sold for initially, right? So you might see a house was sold for $150,000 back in 1993. And then it's going to show you, especially if it's on the market, well, it will be on the market because it's on Zillow, it's right there. It's going to show you the current date and how much it's selling for now. So in a lot of cases, like in that case I said before, that $150,000 house right now would probably, depending on where it's at, probably be more like, $500,000 to $700,000. In some cities where it's really expensive, like Seattle or New York, for example, you're going to see dramatically big increases in price over time. And so when it comes to inflation, you kind of have to keep that in mind. Now, one thing that's cool for you to keep in mind when it comes to purchasing a home, where you live makes a big difference, as I kind of referenced before. So for example, if you want to live in Seattle, it's going to be more expensive. But if you want to live in a more, what's the word? What's the word, Renee? She's not listening. Rural, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, if you want to live in a more rural place, which is a place that has less people in it, then you will often be able to buy more land and a bigger home for less money because it's not going to be as in high of demand. So something for you to keep in mind later too. Oh my gosh, do you mind checking to see what the time is on there? I'm dying here. This is torture. Okay, so that's pretty much all that I have the time for today, honestly, because I simply don't want to do this anymore. There are more things that I could teach you about, but again, I don't want to. I want to get down from here and I want to take a bath. So the biggest thing to keep in mind is that the earlier you save, the earlier you invest, the more money you will make over time. I want you to remember this. If you remember anything other than the identity theft, it's this. This is the path to $1 million. I want you to remember how much more money you have to save per month in order to have $1 million by the time you retire. It's really, really important to keep that in mind. If you start investing at 20, you're only doing $269 a month. You can do that, especially when you get a career. Maybe it's more realistic starting around 25. That's fine. But you start investing when you're 45, when you're 50, you're gonna have way more money that you need to save, and it's gonna be a lot harder to achieve your goals. So remember that time is on your side. Don't forget about rate of return. Typically, it's gonna be anywhere from 7 to 10%. Historically, that's what it's been over time. Go to that website, try that retirement calculator, mess around with it, have fun with it, but more than anything, come up with a plan for yourself. Look at careers, look at how much money you could be making every year, and then come up with a plan for yourself. Like, okay, I'm 25, I could save $500 per month until I'm 65, and how much would I have by then? And that's a really, really kind of good place to start. So, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching my special. I really appreciate everyone coming and subscribing to the channel, all 100,000 of you. You're all amazing fans, best in the world, and I am so ready to be done. Goodbye! Okay.
And you have to Hulk off the wall.